This evening's Biddulph Town Council Planning Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 21st of January. Welcome to everyone in the room and to those joining us on YouTube. Prior to commencing the meeting, I'd just like to read the official disclaimer. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Biddulph Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision-making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more people in our community in local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consented to being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. The images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Biddulph Town Council. Please read the guidance on recording in public meetings policy if you need more information. Thank you very much. Madam Chief Officer, starting at agenda item 53, apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Yep, it's Councillor Smith this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 54, declarations of interest. Disclosable pecuniary interest and dispensation. Does anyone have any disclosable pecuniary interests to declare? That's none. Any other interest to declare? If you find as we come to an application, you do know the person involved, then you feel free to declare at that point. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd November 2024. Can I take those? Those meetings have been through the Town Council?
Yes.
They have?
I doubted myself. Yes.
Yes,
It's in November, isn't it?
Yes, so these minutes have been through the Town Council and approved at the Town Council. Are we happy to accept those as they are, or do we need to go through them? Happy, show of hands, are all happy? Okay, thank you very much. So let's take a moment to initial those. I know, yeah. I've thrown you, haven't I? Okay, if you just talk amongst yourselves for 30 seconds. Today's date is 21st. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 48.
56.
On the wrong minutes, I apologise. Jump to the town community. Item 56, standing agenda item, because there are any proposed post sites for local listing. Do we have any sites for local
No,
listing?
I gather there is a new conservation officer in post at the council now, so I just need to try and get her involved in consideration of those that we've already submitted. So still a watch this space on that, unfortunately.
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you. So moving on to new planning applications. You should all have received the my summary of the applications that we've had, both the ones in advance and the two late applications. First application is SMD 2024-0419, Summerdale Farm Lodge Barn Road, Knipersley. The proposed development is for the demolition of an existing agricultural building and erection and extension of an agricultural building with a covered muck store. Part of this is retrospective in that they received pre-application advice, which recommended that they put in a retrospective application for the barn that was built on in November 2022. So this has been in place for just over 2 years. Right. So on the up here we've got the plan. You can see the. I'll move over here. All right, there we go. The grey section is the barn that is currently the unauthorised building that was built in 2022. The red section is the extension. The box underneath here is the building they're going to demolish in order to extend the existing barn. Okay, so it's basically going to build a portal frame agricultural building adjacent to the traditional outbuilding that's there at the moment, knocking that one down. The retrospective consent is for the 4-bay agricultural building already built. The current application is for the adding 4 further bays, so that's effectively doubling the size of that building. Materials, standard agricultural materials, cement sheeting, grey light walls, concrete panel walls, steel frame building for both the muck store and the agricultural building, and rainwater goods being box profile metal gutters and black UPVC circular downpipes. It states that the development complies with the local plan policies. The list are there: SS10, DC1, DC3, E1, NE1, T1. It complies with the NPPF policies and is necessary to maintain and develop the established organic production on that farm, which is allied to Spinks Farm. There's no mention of any Biddulph's neighbourhood plan policies. They are saying it's located next to existing farm buildings and appropriate size and scale. Although I would comment that that may be challenged. It is a very significant size compared to the building it's replacing, particularly in conjunction with the building that's already been put up. The Coal Authority had no objections. There is a BNG report. Eventually I managed to access the BNG report that indicates that grassland lost by the unauthorised development, the original development, will be compensated for, and BNG achieved by enhancing the remaining grassland. Recommendations to ensure that the success of the proposed habitat, a habitat management and monitoring plan should be produced. Looking at it is in the green belt, just so we're all aware, and I say BNG is applicable to this. Looking at the appropriate policies for the neighbourhood plan, it complies with the enterprise and tourism development in terms of it's allowing for the expansion of a existing business to enhance a environmentally friendly business in terms of organic farming. And the design is compliant in terms of it's consistent with traditional farm buildings. I would question the sustainable drainage, and I would comment on the natural environment features in terms of the location. If I can, the appropriate one, yeah. Right, on the interactive planning portal, this is the location of the site. It is immediately uphill from the head of the Trent, which is a very distinctive, high distinctiveness habitat. And the drainage by soakaway may be an issue potentially. So my comment on it would be that they need to consider potential effluent spillages because of its location adjacent to a very significant habitat area. I've got Councillor Jones and Councillor Hawley. Councillor Jones.
Just want to be clear, is this Aiden's old place?
Yes.
I thought it was. Well, it's miles, it's a long way from the head of the Trent, that's the first thing.
No, that's Crowborough Wood, I think. It's not the head of the Trent, that's not, it's on the.
No, it's not.
head of the
Yeah,
Trent.
it's
Crowborough
okay,
Wood.
but it's still
They're down in a hollow. It's not, doesn't overlook anything. It's really tucked away down in a hollow. If it's for legitimate agricultural purposes, I think as long as there's no greenbelt issues, I'd move that we put it through NAC.
So my original proposal on this is that we approve it with conditions that it doesn't contravene any greenbelt restrictions. The recommended habitat management and monitoring plan is implemented with mitigation measures to ensure that there's no contamination of adjacent natural habitats. Councillor Hawley.
For me, Chair.
I can say it's basically a working farm. It's needed to enhance the business. In terms of the neighbourhood plan, I can't really see any problems with it. What I would suggest then is that we just basically something to the effect that the drainage is, should be considered, and basically we recommend approval. I mean, in terms of, because it's a working farm, you're doing things. It's surprising what that gets around as far as greenbelt's concerned. So. Basically, I think, as far as I'm concerned, I think we should recommend it for approval with the condition that the drainage is considered.
So essentially, what's my original statement on this was that approve it with the conditions, recommend the conditions that the habitat management and monitoring plan produced as per the BNG report, the mitigation measures to ensure no contamination with the adjacent natural habitats and surface water discharge meets greenbelt restrictions, and that it complies with greenbelt restrictions. Are you happy to go forward with that recommendation? Okay, so
I think I would say is I can't see any point in actually referring this to the neighbourhood plan.
no, I've got actually no, I had it down as referring it to the neighbourhood plan group because basically it indirectly impacts on neighbourhood plan policies two of which we're putting a condition to.
Yeah, let's say it's not,
If as the chair of that group, you're happy for it not to go,
I
then,
don't think it needs.
okay, right, so we'll make that as a no. So that's that's a proposal. Councillor Jones, do you say you're happy to second that proposal?
Absolutely.
Okay, right, can I have a show of hands, please? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, right.
So I'm not a member of this committee at the moment, so I'm not voting for that reason.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that information. Okay. All right, so moving on to, let me find. It's this one. Yeah, right. Okay, right. Moving on to SMD 2025-0011. Mr. and Mrs. Holly's 190 Congleton Road, Biddulph. It's a proposed two-storey extension. Proposed two-storey extension, rear extension. It hasn't got any pre-application advice. It's two-storey extension to the rear of the property to add a master bedroom on the ground floor. This is an upside-down house, just so you know, with a dressing room and balcony on the ground, what is labelled as the ground floor, and then below that on the, got this on here, on the floor below it, a family dining room on the lower ground floor opening onto the back garden. Materials are facing brick to match the existing and modern concrete tiles to match the existing. There's no other supporting statements with this application. It's not in the green belt. BNG isn't applicable. The only potential neighbourhood plan policies that might impinge on it is critical road junctions, and it's just along from the Grange Road junction. Which is basically there, as you can see. This, so potentially critical road junction, but it's a reasonable way from that road junction. And there are no high-risk comments, and there's no indication of additional parking or car movement, so I don't think that's potentially an issue. I think it complies as far as that's concerned. Design, it seems appropriate for the type of house it is, and as I say, there's no additional car parking allocations, therefore I think the DES 2 is complied with as well. A recommendation will be to approve. As a comment to say, this site has had no previous completed applications on it. So while most of the other properties around this have had completed applications, this one hasn't in the past. Therefore, it's its first extension to the property. So are we happy to approve that?
Recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. You effectively recommendation approval. You'll second that. Second that. Can we have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That was a nice, simple one. Right. Yep. Okay, so let me go back to. Trying to be clever here, so I've got too many things open on my screen. Right, so jumping on to the supplementaries, the supplementary that we have is 2024-0578. Mr. and Mrs. Alan and Melissa Hubbard, 1 Halls Road, Biddulph. It's a proposed side and rear extension. Yeah.
That is Halls Road.
I got Halls there properly. I can't read it from it.
Click on it now.
Okay, right, so that is the location that we're talking about. This is the plan. Okay, right, so It's a large ground floor extension to the side and rear of the property. It replaces an existing porch extension with a conservatory attached. Those are the bits marked in red there from the previous plan. And a freestanding garage that was located slightly behind the property. And it's replacing them with a large attached garage, as you can see, a large bedroom with ensuite, extending a large open plan kitchen dining area with a larder stored to it. The walls, new facing brickwork to match existing. The roof will be a flat roof with a felt or EDPM roof. Windows and doors, the new white UPVC windows and doors would match the existing. It's not in the green belt, and BNG doesn't apply because it's a householder application. Again, neighbourhood plan policies that might apply. Inf 1 critical road junctions, it's just down from the junction of Halls Road with Hungleton Road, which is a noted critical junction. But there is no additional vehicle movements expected because they're not replacing multiple garages, one garage with multiple garages. So there's potentially no additional vehicle movement. So that probably is complied with. Public on parking and car movement, DES 2, the same would apply there. DES 1, I have serious concerns regarding the large expanse of the flat roof and that it is out of keeping with the property and the neighbouring properties. The scale, I believe, potentially represents overdevelopment. The area is significantly more than 50% of the original unextended property. So I haven't made a recommendation for this because I think it's a case of, would it be churlish to refuse? But I wouldn't want to say no adverse comments because I would have concerns regarding the scale of the development. I've got.
Yeah, can I dispute two of your things you've got here?
Yeah.
Right, the first one, it's not greater than 50% of the original because the original floor space includes both ground floor and first floor, not just the ground floor. So effectively, it is not greater than 50%. That's
Okay.
the first thing.
We'll come back to you. Okay, fine. It's okay.
The other one is in terms of the flat roof.
Yeah.
Number 17 has actually got a garage with an extended flat.
I didn't look that far up the road. I only went about 3 or 4 houses up. That's quite further up, isn't it? Okay.
Number 17.
Take additional information.
Got a flat roof, which is basically quite long, a garage with a long flat roof. So potentially that one is probably out the window. So,
Okay, so you believe essentially say there's been a precedent for this sort of development before.
somebody has, so basically
Okay.
a long flat roof there. So that's a precedent. And as I say, basically the floor space is both up and down, upstairs and downstairs, and that potentially is not greater than 50.
From a rough, from what they've done here, essentially all this entire section across the back and that and this is new, effectively.
Yeah.
It's all extension.
I'm not disputing what's
And that area is bigger than the area here.
yeah, but it's not bigger than the two combined.
No, I think
The floor area is the two combined.
it's more than half of the existing floor area, though, isn't it?
It's more than half of the existing ground floor area,
Ground floor, but
not more than half of the total area, which is what is considered for planning.
yeah.
I thought, and I do stand to be corrected on this, that there is the floor area. So twice that is the floor area for the whole property. This area here is bigger than that area there, therefore it's bigger than 50% of the total. But
Plus you've also got.
anyway, to an extent we're arguing technicalities here because if there's a precedent set for something similar in a previous location, then I'm happy to on the basis of that to say, okay, no adverse comments.
I would say recommend approval, subject to any neighbours valid planning concerns.
Okay, so we have a proposal from Councillor Hawley for approval, subject to no neighbours valid planning concerns. Do you have a second for that?
I'll say that, yeah.
Second for Councillor Jones. Are we all happy with that? Okay, thank you. So that's now noted as approval, subject to no valid neighbours planning concerns. Brilliant, thank you.
Slight point of order, Chair. This is a bit of a bugbear of mine.
Yeah.
We keep saying recommend approval, we recommend approval, recommend approval. We're not here to do that. We're here to make comments. It's either comments or no adverse comments.
No,
One or the other.
I would disagree with you on that, Councillor Jones, in that we are a consultee and we're being asked for a recommendation in terms of what we believe as the a competent consultee. And what we're recommending, what we believe should be their decision. We're not making the decision. We're making a recommendation as to what we believe.
Comments, that's what we're here to do, make comment, not recommend. We make comments, planning comments.
Let's just agree to disagree on this one, Councillor Jones, and
Yeah, I've been on this committee 20 odd years. That's the pool.
this is not necessarily the time to do this, but leave it there. As it comes, as and when things come forward, we'll make recommendations. If you want to make the recommendation, no adverse comments, and everyone's happy with that, then we're happy to do that. It's an option.
We don't recommend approval or refusal. We don't.
Right.
That's not what we're here for.
That's calling it quits there now, okay? Right. Moving on. New decisions and notices received from the District Council. So no adverse comments and it was approved. No adverse approved. So basically both the ones that have come through were approved. Okay. Moving on to item 68, appeals.
That should be 60, yeah. I'll amend that in the minutes, we've got 59.
Okay,
We'll
right,
call
yes,
that-
well,
We'll call that 60, shall we?
we'll call that 60, yes,
Yeah.
Chief Officer. We'll call this item 60, appeals. Okay, SMD 2024-0376, 13 Long Valley Road, Biddulph, Staffordshire. This was the excavation works to form timber retaining walls for new parking area at highway level and works to form the raised patio area. This was a retrospective application because it had already been done. With extension to existing drop curve to serve the new parking area and driveway. The recommendation from this committee at the November meeting was it highlighted the sustainable drainage issue, but recommended no adverse comments. SMDC have refused it, citing two neighbourhood plan policies, DES 1 and DES 2, stating that the 5 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom property makes parking overly dominant. Reviewing the application, there were several comments in support. I think there were 5 comments in support and 3 comments against, reading the report of the planning officer, which I do have, I think, on the screen. Bear with me for a moment. Yeah, okay, right. So they did raise the question of sustainable drainage. Highways had no objection, but had put conditions that the area that has been developed was not brought into use until a dropped curb was installed, and a drainage water interceptor that would have been marked on the plans was installed. It's been refused on the grounds that it's not in keeping with the locality, and the comment that the parking was becoming over dominant. But they also noted that the highways conditions, that the two highways conditions had been breached, in that the drop curve hasn't been installed and the area is in routine use, and that the drainage water interceptor is not appropriate, in that it is positioned on the one side of the area, allegedly draining into the garden, but in reality, on observation, it slopes down towards the road and it's draining onto the road. So those are 2 comments that were made. Obviously, it was a retrospective application, so the work's already been done. I don't know if any enforcement action is pending to return to the original layout, bearing in mind it's been refused. I've put it on here for discussion, but it may well be that we don't want to discuss this because it's in the hands of the planners, having refused it. Any comments or questions?
I don't think we've appealed, it's on the stew on it. Sorry for appeals.
Okay, it's just,
But we can actually change what we say.
Yeah, what?
On this, it's in the hands of the plan of the SMDC and the.
okay. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Hawley, and then back to Councillor Proudlove.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering whether actually we sort of said that no adverse comments last time, as whether we got it wrong. Potentially 3 of the neighbourhood plan policies are affected. DES 1 and DES 2, given the comments that have been made, I think it seems to be a matter of opinion whether they actually comply. Some say they're happy with it and some say they're not. So the one that doesn't seem to be complying with is it INF2, which is the sustainable drainage, which I think seems to be a bit of a problem. So it doesn't comply with INF2, and I say there's conflicting views on DES 1 and DES 2. And I would recommend that, in view of the officer's comment, that basically with the neighbourhood plan, that we basically got it wrong the first time, and I think we should back the planning officer on this one.
All right, okay, thank you, councillor Hawley. Councillor Prowler, did you want to make a comment on this?
Yeah, it's just a quick one, Chair, thank you. Although obviously the town council don't have any jurisdiction, they could make representations to the appeal, and certainly ward members, but obviously it's Middle North members could, they so wished, if they really engage with such a minor planning appeal, because obviously you note obviously the big appeal that was at the Moorlands prior to Christmas, Moneystone Quarry, there was plenty of interest from parish councils in that neck of the woods. So it's all about scale. It's whether you want to spend the time. I've been to visit the applicant here. I mean, obviously it's in Biddulph North. It was passed on to me. I remember seeing this application at committee here. I'll repeat what conversation I had with the applicant. I thought the drawings looked dreadful, and when we looked at it, but actually on site, it's not offensive in any way. Now, how the drainage works and etc. I can't really comment on that. That's a technical issue, yeah. But in respect of, you know, is it an issue in respect of the design policies in the neighbourhood plan? Design's subjective. That's why it's, you know, one man made. I'm sure the applicant sees what he's done as a masterpiece of architectural design. Whether I view it that way is different kettle of fish, but it's a subjective matter. I don't think it's particularly offensive on the street scene. From what I understand, one of the objectors lives directly opposite and doesn't like what they can see. So
others live opposite. Others live opposite. They like it.
Just going to one meeting here, right? So
well, I chaired that.
yes,
I drove past it and thought to myself, well, other people have altered the drives down there, haven't they? And he's got that motorhome and other cars, and they're going to be parked on the road if he doesn't do anything.
I too have driven past it. I've driven past it this afternoon on my way to the meeting, and I can see the point that the planning officer is making in terms of the statement here that where are we saying? The ensuring the number of parking spaces provided, the curtilage of each dwelling is proportionate to the size of the property, which is in DES 2. So I can see the point that 5 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom property is probably excessive. I'm slightly unhappy that we're talking about a retrospective thing here, that planning wasn't put in before it was done. And I think coming to the point of the sustainable drainage, on the plan, the drainage indicated that it would be sustainable in terms of it's down the far side of the back end of the parking area, draining behind from that into the soakaway into the ground. However, the observation of the officer when visiting the site was that the drainage was actually coming the other way and onto the road. So I think there are issues that need to be addressed to comply with the highways conditions in terms of if the drainage is made sustainable so it drains the right way and the dropped curbs put in place before it's used, that would then comply with highways condition. So I think in the case of this, I'm inclined to agree with councillor Jackson. We leave it in the hands of the planning officers that they've made a decision on the basis of both our neighbourhood plan policies and the highways conditions.
The one thing that concerns me is that the applicant will probably refer back and say that Biddle Town Council said no, effectively, that we got no adverse comments. And potentially what we're doing is, to a certain degree, changing our mind in terms of if we're saying, go ahead with what the planning officer wants to do. Effectively, the planning officer's gone against what we said. So all I'm saying is, should we actually state that we are concerned about the drainage? And effectively, as far as design's concerned, that's a matter of opinion, because obviously some people in the comments are quite happy with it and some aren't. So I would just sort of say, yes, we'll go along with what the planning officer, but we are concerned about the drainage. And I think that needs to be stated, because obviously we actually said before that we got no adverse comments, which strictly speaking, we missed out on that. And
while it was went through as no adverse comments, there was a comment made on the submission saying the concrete hard standing INF2 sustainable drainage. I think the point you're coming back on now is that the practical application or the result is not giving us sustainable drainage, whereas the plan suggested it would be sustainable drainage. And let's say I highlight this. This is the final paragraph of the report, is that the surface water. So basically, they're effectively saying that it's not provided with appropriate sustainable drainage. The final solution is. So in that case, are we happy that we, as far as this is concerned, as far as this is concerned, we're commenting to say we accept their comments on the lack of effective sustainable drainage in the solution that's been presented, and the compliance with the highways conditions needs to be met before it's brought into use.
I just don't want, potentially, I just don't want the applicants actually coming along and saying Biddle Town Council, I've got a problem with it. But
I'd refer back to Councillor Jones's comment from earlier. We're an advisory rather than the deciding body. The deciding body here is the district council who's made the refusal. Right.
It's good how you can, all I was gonna just throw. All I was gonna say was to issues relating to the highways conditions and whatnot. When the planning inspector assesses this and looks at if the appeal is upheld, then it would be on the basis of any conditions would have to be complied with anyway. So really, it isn't really something we need to worry ourselves about, because the inspector will address that.
Right, Councillor Jones.
Just quickly to say, given what Councillor Wooley's just said, if the applicant did want to come back and cite what we said, it's fortunate in this particular case we did say no adverse comments and not recommend approval.
Absolutely.
She would have expected to carry more weight, and it's something we don't have the authority to do.
Well, on that point, I believe the town council had given their approval.
Well, yeah. Well, we didn't say that.
We
no adverse comments.
specifically didn't. Yes.
Why we should say no adverse comments and not recommend approval.
There are opportunities where there's a situation where that would be appropriate. Anyway, suffice to say that there's nothing going to go forward from here in this case. We're going to sit on our hands and leave it with the.
Is that the recommendation? We're not
Yeah.
not recommending anything.
Yeah. So I think from what Councillor Proudlove's saying is, irrespective of how the appeal goes, the conditions will need to be met. If the conditions are met in terms of the requirement for sustainable drainage, which is on the original plan, then that issue would be a non-issue.
Chair, but the narrative that we should put in is that we accept planning officer's concerns on the sustainable drainage, and we're happy to leave it for them to decide.
Right. So that's a proposal. Effectively, we're happy to accept the comments from the planning officer.
Not say
leave it in there.
Even though we did.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Sorry, we accept the kind of comments. We continue to be concerned about sustainable drainage and compliance with the highways.
We're happy to leave it with the planning.
Happy to leave it.
And then respect to.
Yes,
Okay, so that was my concern, is that originally it wasn't an issue because of the way it was drawn. In practice, it becomes an issue when inspected by the planning officer, and therefore it is a concern. Okay, do we have a second for that, please? Councillor Hawley, go a show of hands, please. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions, apart from those who aren't on the committee? Okay, right, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the meeting. I declare the meeting closed at 6:06.
yeah.
Well,